For many of us isolating at home this past year, music has been our one way out. It's what connects us with one another. It brings us together, and it shapes our perception of the world. In many ways, music is a universal language.
I think music is really powerful. I think no matter where you're from, music is a universal language. It's something that we all agree on. People have wedding songs. It's like people have a theme song for their wedding, for their newborn. You know, music is just something which you associate with special moments in your life.
This is Chris Atkins, Senior Manager for Audio and Video Content at Expo 2020 Dubai. And he's exactly right. Music soothes us as we go about our day and do errands, or cook meals, or power through an intense workout. It can lift us up when we're down, but it can also remind us of fond memories from childhood or other milestones in life. But most importantly, it brings the entire world together, especially during global events. Today, we're looking at theme songs, and not just any theme song. We're talking about This Is Our Time, the official theme song for Expo 2020 Dubai. And as the official song for the first Expo event in the Arab world, its significance spreads far and wide. I'm Noon Saleh, and this is Inside Expo, an official podcast of Expo 2020 Dubai, where history is being made. Pretty much everyone you know has heard a theme song in their lives. Think of the World Cup, the Olympics, or other global events that bring people of all nationalities together. Take the 1998 FIFA World Cup in France, for example. Ricky Martin's epic hit, The Cup of Life, was not only the theme song for the event, it defined that moment in history. Many of us grew up with it and heard it literally everywhere growing up. And for the listeners who weren't alive at the time, it was a big deal. It still is a big deal. Shakira's Waka Waka, this time for Africa, from the 2010 FIFA World Cup, is another emblematic theme that still resonates far and wide today. In fact, the Expo team members were even inspired by it. But before we had theme songs like those, we had national anthems.
I would say the early theme songs are national anthems of countries. You know, you associate a country is proud and they play their national anthem. It's like if you can't say it in words, you sing it out loud. And that's happened throughout history, I think.
Theme songs can also represent turning points or historic times. Like in 2000, when the Scorpions performed Wind of Change at the 2000 Hanover Expo in Germany. And to this day, many associate this song with the fall of the Berlin Wall. And in line with historic change, Expo 2020's This Is Our Time represents the current moment that brought us at a crossroads, a global pandemic that's impacting every single one of us, and one that has pushed many of us to rethink our life choices and cherish what matters most. Theme songs don't only bring people together, they provide what is called sonic branding, or branding through sound rather than just images or logos. And Chris Atkins wanted to do just that.
Often we're too consumed about visual cues, and people tend to not think about audio cues. And it's very, very powerful, just how radio is very powerful. So a few examples would be when you sit down at the end of a long day, you turn on your TV, and the first thing you'll hear is ding, ding. And obviously everyone knows that's the Netflix jingle. And all you need to do is hear that jingle and you know exactly what the brand is. Another one would be da-da-ding, ding, da-da-ding, ding, da-da-ding, ding, ding, which is Nokia. And that's how powerful music is. That's how powerful sonic branding is.
And he wanted This Is Our Time to be associated with Expo Dubai. And that's exactly what happened. They wanted to reflect the themes of Expo 2020. And in his own words, they want the theme song to center around the now, not later, not tomorrow, now.
If you come to Expo, you'll know that we have three main sub-themes, three main districts, which are sustainability, opportunity, and mobility. And we want visitors to be able to go to any part of the site, close their eyes, and know exactly which district they're in just by listening to the sounds around them. So, for example, if you go to mobility and you close your eyes, you'll be hearing synths and fast beats and hyperloops. But you'll also hear This Is Our Time, arranged in a very kind of modern, dancey kind of way, which is great because it kind of shows you how many ways a melody or a song can be arranged to feel completely different, but you still have that recall that it's the Expo theme song, that it's the Expo sonic identity.
So when Chris decided to embark on this massive project, he began to brainstorm. As he sat in his office in Dubai in 2019, he had a flashback to his childhood. He remembered hearing his first theme song almost 2 decades earlier.
The very, very first theme song that I remember was in 1992, and I would have been 10 years old. And it was the Barcelona Olympics theme song. And that was done by Freddie Mercury and Montserrat Caballé. And a lot of theme songs have obviously been in English and then the native tongue of the country where it's being held. And that's how our theme song started.
And so Chris rolled up his sleeves and immediately thought of one person that could make this happen, his longtime friend and composer, Joe Dickinson. He called him up, told him what he had in mind, and asked him to send a demo.
Our brief to Joe was that this song had to be the best song ever. And he said, no problem, in a very sarcastic tone.
It's a bit of pressure because everyone's like, we want it to be the biggest and we want this to be massive and we want everyone to be able to dance, but we also want it upbeat and we also want emotion. And there's so many things to consider. And it's like, how am I going to do this? I'm going to make it work.
That's Joe Dickinson. Joe and his wife Lucy, also a writer and singer, joined forces. They used their spare room turned studio in their Lambourne home in a small village almost 2 hours west of London. And in that soundproof studio, with guitars hanging on their walls, Joe and Lucy began drafting the Expo 2020 theme song. Just 1 week later, they managed to send over a demo to Chris over WhatsApp.
This is our time. This is the moment we have to decide. It's time to stand up and vow to be what the world needs now. This is our time.
Joe drew inspiration from songs with epic music, like Rise Like a Phoenix, a pop song performed by Austrian singer Conchita Wurst, and the winner of the Eurovision Song Contest in 2014. Brainstorming wasn't exactly linear, so Joe and Lucy found different ways to get inspired, like listening to a shared playlist.
I think it's got like 600 tracks on, and it's something you can put on without thinking too hard. And it's got to be all songs that you can't skip. And that's our rule, that you don't skip songs on the playlist. So they've all got to be good songs. But then I've got my own playlist, which is more, it's my big orchestral playlist, and I'm always trying to put that on, but
it's not for everyone.
It's a lot of ballads, a lot of Disney, and quite a few like a cappella songs in there, and orchestral, emotional kind of big music. So a car journey with me isn't you know, my wife hates it sometimes because I put on this horrible, like, epic, and she just wants to listen to, like, Coldplay or something.
And when Joe's ideas became more concrete, he reached out to Canadian producer Greg Wells, now based in Los Angeles. Wells had produced for Dua Lipa, Elton John, and Aerosmith, to name a few. And that was when things suddenly got very real. It suddenly expanded to become a massive collaborative project that spanned countries, languages, and time zones. To start, the Expo team decided that the lyrics had to be both in English and in Arabic.
This is our time. I know it now.
They also fused Emirati, Arab, and Western orchestral beats. And Chris felt that Joe, who lived both in Dubai and the UK, was most suited for this role.
Dubai is a melting pot of all nationalities, and often events and TV commercials, the music has to appeal to all different nationalities. And he always nailed the tracks, and that's why I wanted him to come on board for this track.
From there, it became a massive collaborative effort spanning 7 cities. And they even included 2 orchestras, like one called Fame's Macedonian Symphonic Orchestra from Skopje, North Macedonia, and another 16-player Egyptian string orchestra led by conductor Tamer Faizi, and a youth choir with almost 20 students from all over the world. And of course, last but not least, the 3 main singers, Emirati legends Hussein Al-Jasmi and Almas, and Lebanese-American Maysa Kara.
I came across this YouTube video, a 10-year-old YouTube video, and it's actually Hussein on Egyptian TV, I think, and he's singing Hello by Lionel Richie, obviously in English. And literally after like 5 seconds of him singing this, I had an instant connection with him because he's singing my language.
Hello, is it me you're looking for? I can see.
Because people nowadays watch music like they do on YouTube, I really wanted the world to see this 7-foot-tall guy in a kandura, and the first thing that would come out of his mouth would be, "Follow me, one voice, one family."
He's not exactly 7 feet tall, but let's just say he's very noticeable from afar. He has hits that top the charts throughout the Arab world, like the classic Sitta Subh, or 6 in the morning in English, released almost a decade ago.
When we think of Hussein Al-Jasmi, you could probably think of him like the Robbie Williams of the UK, the Bon Jovi of America. He's kind of that famous in the UAE.
And while this was the first Expo theme song to have Arab musical influences, it drew inspiration from many other theme songs in history that blended local and international music, like the song We Are One at the 2014 FIFA World Cup in Brazil, which blended Portuguese, Spanish, and English lyrics, as well as Brazilian samba and pop beats. After 2 years of all this tremendous work, it was finally time to mix everything together. But the file was massive. Joe's computer almost died on him. Luckily, Chris had a solution and thought of one person that could mix everything together and make it happen. Sound engineer Kevin Shurko, based in Las Vegas.
I remember the first day Kevin loaded up the session from Joe, and I think he had a mini heart attack. The track is about 180 tracks, and it's actually the second largest session he's ever had to mix.
For reference, Kevin is the sound engineer for music legends like Ozzy Osbourne and Papa Roach. Millennials would know who I'm talking about. And after all that effort in September 2021, it was time to release the song. But the team didn't get too excited just yet. And that's because things didn't quite feel real until they had what many musicians call the car test.
I don't know if you've ever heard of the car test. When you first start making music or producing music, you'd always kind of go into your car and listen to the mix that you did in your bedrooms. It sounds great in your bedroom, but when you took it to the car, it sounds rubbish. And it's always a very depressing moment. And I just remember one of the UAE's kind of biggest radio presenters bigging our song up and then playing it. And it just sounded amazing.
Chris remembers when he went to the dress rehearsal of the opening ceremony.
It was amazing. I got goosebumps. My wife was like punching me because she was so excited for me, and people were turning around and waving at me. And I think that's when I felt really proud. And I didn't even write the song. It was just something that I gave birth to, but I just felt so proud.
The world as it stands in the palm of our hands, it's our time. Oh, take a seat to the greatest show you'll ever see.
And when the world watched This Is Our Time being performed at the opening ceremony, Joe, Chris, and the huge team all watched in awe. But because of the pandemic, many of them had to watch from their homes.
The opening show was humongous. It was like this massive event where they kind of announced an expo to the world, and they had Andrea Bocelli and Ellie Goulding and all these big stars. And the song was being performed live for the first time in that show. So they, that was a weird one. Kind of sat in my living room. It's raining outside, and I kind of got a blanket over me, and we're watching this like balmy, hot Dubai and this glamorous big event and stuff. That was I had my mum and dad watching that one as well. So that was cool.
Wake up to find this day. This is our time.
And I remember driving to work, and it was the first ever worldwide radio play of the song. And that's kind of like the Freddie Mercury moment as like a 10-year-old watching this theme song. And, now I'm 37 and I created a theme song for the biggest event in history. And it's like a really proud moment.
Inside Expo takes you behind the scenes at Expo 2020 Dubai, sharing our stories and others across the 170-year history of this global event. Learn more by visiting virtualexpodubai.com. Inside Expo is produced by Kerning Cultures Network. We release episodes every Tuesday and Friday. Subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss an episode. And if you enjoyed listening to this episode, share it with your friends and leave us a review.